Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shong. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. On December 21st, the US Air Force RC-135 biplane was in international airspace, conducting routine operations over the contested South China Sea. It was intercepted by a J-11 fighter jets from the Chinese Navy. The Chinese jet positioned itself about 10 feet from the RC-135's wing and then drifted within 20 feet of its nose as the US plane maintained its course and speed. Shortly after, the R-135 had to take evasive maneuvers to avoid a collision. On the same day, China and Russia began a week-long joint live-fire naval exercise in the East China Sea. A few weeks before, China alleged that a US missile cruiser illegally intruded into waters near the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. The US Navy denied the reports, describing the Chinese statement as false. The US has called this a concerning trend of unsafe intercept practices by the Chinese military. We expect all countries in the Indo-Pacific region to use international airspace safely and in accordance with international law, the US commander said. A spokesperson for the commander said the US would respond through the appropriate channels. On Thursday, December 29, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said that the US had long endangered China's national security with its aerial and naval reconnaissance in the region and that Beijing would continue to take necessary measures. The provocative and dangerous action of the US are the root cause of maritime security issues, Wang said at a regular news briefing. On Saturday, New Year's Eve, China released its own footage of the encounter. A Defense Ministry statement said, the US Air Force's RC-135 conducted international close-in reconnaissance in the vicinity of China's southern coastline and the Xisha Islands. Xisha Islands is the Chinese term for the disputed Paracel Islands, which are controlled by Beijing but also claimed by Vietnam. The PLA Navy's J-11 was sent to intercept the American plane, the statement said. During the process, disregarding repeated warnings from the Chinese pilot, the US aircraft abruptly changed its flight attitude and forced the Chinese aircraft to the left. The Chinese video of the incident showed both aircraft closing in on each other before diverging again. Neither clip appeared to back conclusively Washington or Beijing's version of events, although much nimbler fast jets are generally expected to exercise more caution in such instances. China claims sovereignty over most of the South China Sea, despite a 2016 international court ruling that Beijing's claim had no merit. The US has also dismissed China's claims on the South China Sea, which has some of the world's busiest commercial shipping lanes. Nevertheless, China has forged ahead with building artificial islands and establishing a military presence in the disputed sea. The Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, and Taiwan also lay claim to portions of the South China Sea. In 2015, a defiant Xi Jinping said that the South China Sea had been controlled by China since ancient times, although the claims is historically disputed. At a regional defense summit in Singapore last June, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said there had been an alarming increase in the number of unsafe aerial intercepts and confrontations at sea by PLA aircraft and vessels. Australia said a Chinese fighter pilot intercepted one of its military surveillance planes over the South China Sea in May, releasing chaff that entered the plane's engine. The following month, Canada accused the Chinese military of forcing Royal Canadian Air Force planes off their flight path during United Nations-approved operations to monitor sanctions evasions by North Korea. In 2001, near China's Hainan Island, a U.S. Navy EP-3E spy plane and China's J-811 fighter jets collided in mid-air, causing J-811 crashed in the sea, killing the pilot, and the EP-3E plane landed on Hainan Airport. China held 24 crew members for 10 days, resulting in an international dispute between the US and China. It was known later as the Hainan Island incident. In November, at a meeting with Chinese Defense Minister Wei Fenghe, Mr. Austin raised the issue. The two men agreed at that meeting to improve US-China military communication channels. Such channels were suspended after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August. Since then, China has intensified its incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. After President Joe Biden signed a defense spending bill that increased US military support for Taiwan, China sent a record 71 warplanes toward the island in a single 24-hour period before New Year. Separately, Japanese officials confirmed before New Year that there had been a rare sighting of China's Liaoning aircraft carrier group near Guam, a U.S. territory that has 2 military bases. At a news briefing before New Year, Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Tang Kefei said China attaches great importance to its military relationship with the US, and that working-level communication between the two militaries had not been interrupted. However, the US cannot seek to fully resume dialogue and exchanges with China while continuously harming China's interests, he said. The interception of US planes by potential adversaries and vice versa has remained a common practice since the Cold War, and serious incidents like the one of Hainan 2 decades ago are exceedingly rare. For policymakers, the release of details about otherwise classified military operations serves public affairs and public diplomacy purposes. Doing so is indicating to domestic and foreign audiences the principles behind each mission as well as the associated risks. As Ukraine's proactive intelligence disclosure have shown, winning the narrative war is key to securing international support. As the US and China compete across multiple domains, control of the information space is becoming increasingly important. In the hotly contested South China Sea, for instance, Washington continues to assert freedom of navigation and overflight, while Beijing seeks an end to the American military presence in the region. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.